Epilogue. The Last Laugh. 1 year later, the Survivors Club. David Ortiz's restaurant, The Second Helping, reopened 6 months ago with a name that makes Connor smile every time he sees the sign. The irony is lost on everyone except the 7 people who gather here every Tuesday evening for what they've privately come to call the Survivors Club. Connor arrives at 7 p.m, right on schedule. The main dining room bustles with normal Millbrook residents, enjoying normal dinners, completely unaware that the back private room hosts a weekly gathering of people who died and came back. David greets Connor at the kitchen door with a warm handshake that's become ritual. "Doc, your usual table's ready." "Thanks, David. How's the shoulder?" Connor asks, though he already knows. He's been monitoring David's recovery from the burns, both the physical scars and the psychological ones. "Good days and bad days," David admits, "but more good than bad lately." He leads Connor through the kitchen, where the smells of roasting garlic and fresh bread fill the air. David's cuisine has gotten better since his resurrection. He jokes that dying gave him perspective on flavours, made him appreciate the sensory experience of being alive. The private room in the back seats 10 comfortably. 6 are already occupied. Eleanor Henderson sits at the head of the table, because of course she does. At 79? Or is it 79 again? Eleanor has become the unofficial leader of their impossible little club. She's wearing her ceramic cat brooch and a lavender cardigan, looking every bit the sweet Sunday school teacher she's always been, except for the steel in her eyes that comes from drowning and deciding to live anyway. "Connor," Eleanor says warmly, "right on time, as always." Thomas Grayson sits to Eleanor's right, his trademark turtleneck covering the ligature scars that have mostly faded, but will never completely disappear. He's gained back the weight he lost, started seeing a trauma therapist who doesn't know about the actual trauma, and recently reconnected with his estranged daughter. Resurrection gave him a second chance at more than just life. Margaret Chen occupies the next seat. Margaret looks healthier than she did before Ian poisoned her. She's been meticulous about her health since coming back, as if she's afraid to waste a single moment of borrowed time. Rebecca Walsh sits across from them, her Bible in her purse, but her smile more relaxed than it's ever been. Dying and being resurrected has complicated her faith in fascinating ways. She still believes in God, but now she also believes in miracles that come from decidedly non-divine sources. She started a ministry at Trinity Methodist about second chances and forgiveness. The sermons are surprisingly profound. Harold Pemberton occupies the next seat. 17 stab wounds left him with chronic pain and a newfound appreciation for psychiatric medication. He's writing a memoir about his experience, though he's changing all the names and presenting it as fiction. No one would believe it as non-fiction anyway. Jennifer Wu enters from the main dining room, carrying a bottle of wine and wearing a smile that's become more genuine over the past year. She's back to work as Connor's assistant, but their dynamic has shifted. They're partners now, co-conspirators in the greatest secret Millbrook has ever known. "Sorry, I'm late," Jennifer says, sliding into the empty seat beside Connor. Mrs. Patterson needed her prescription refilled, and you know how she likes to chat. Mrs. Patterson would talk to a lamppost if it held still long enough, Eleanor observes fondly. David emerges from the kitchen with plates, his Tuesday special, something different each week. Tonight, it's roasted duck with cherry reduction, wild rice, and seasonal vegetables. He serves each person with the care of someone who knows exactly how precious life is. Once everyone has food and wine, Eleanor raises her glass. "To Tuesday nights," she says simply. "To Tuesday nights," they chorus back. It's become their tradition, not toasting to survival or resurrection or revenge, just to Tuesday nights, to the simple act of gathering together, alive when they shouldn't be, grateful for every ordinary moment. Connor sips his wine and observes his collection, his patients, his victims, in a way, his responsibility, his community. A year ago, he brought Eleanor Henderson back from death because he was bored and wanted to play a game. Then Thomas, Margaret, David, Rebecca, Harold, and finally Jennifer. 7 resurrections, 7 impossible returns, 7 people who share a secret that binds them together more tightly than blood. As dinner progresses, the conversation flows easily. They've stopped talking obsessively about their deaths and resurrections. Now they talk about normal things. Town gossip, politics, the weather, the new coffee shop opening on Main Street. They've become friends, genuinely, bound together by shared trauma, but sustained by genuine affection. Around 9 p.m, as dessert arrives, David's famous apple pie with vanilla bean ice cream, Eleanor taps her glass for attention. "I have an announcement," she says, and the table quiets. "Next month marks 1 year since my incident. I've decided to sell my house." There's a moment of surprised silence. "Eleanor," Connor says carefully, "are you sure?" She smiles, and it's peaceful. "I'm sure. The house has too many memories. Robert's death, my own drowning, all those weeks of hiding. I want something new. Something that's mine in this second life, not an echo of my first one." "Where will you go?" Margaret asks. "There's a lovely condo community being built on the north side of town. Smaller, more manageable. No stairs, no bathtubs. Ironically, it's one of the places Ian was trying to sell me on to buy my house before all this started." Eleanor's eyes twinkle. And before anyone asks, yes, I've made sure the real estate agent is not Ian Martin. The table erupts in laughter. Dark. Knowing laughter that only people who've been murdered by a real estate agent can truly appreciate. "To Eleanor's new home," Thomas raises his glass. "To Eleanor's new home," they echo. As the evening winds down and people start saying their goodbyes, Connor finds himself alone with Eleanor for a moment by the coat rack. "Are you really okay?" he asks quietly. Eleanor studies him with those sharp eyes that see more than most. "Connor, you gave me a second life. I spent the first 78 years being who I thought I should be. Robert's wife, the perfect teacher, the good Christian woman. This second life, I get to figure out who I actually am. Yes, I'm really okay. And you don't resent me for bringing you back into this complicated mess?" Eleanor considers this seriously. "Sometimes I wake up at 3 a.m. and wonder if I'm in purgatory, if this is some elaborate test. But then I remember purgatory wouldn't have David's apple pie. If this is some cosmic joke, at least it's a funny one." She pats his arm. "You're a strange man, Connor McMasters, but you're a good one. Don't ever doubt that." Connor watches Eleanor leave, then Jennifer approaches. "You okay, partner?" "I'm a small-town doctor who runs a secret support group for people who nearly died," Connor sees dryly. "I'm not sure okay applies." Jennifer grins. "Fair point, but you look happy. That's new." Connor realizes she's right. For centuries, he's been alone, detached, bored out of his immortal mind. Now he has this. Tuesday dinners with people who know what he is and choose to be around him anyway. It's terrifying and wonderful and completely unexpected. "Yeah," Connor admits. "I guess I am." The psychiatric ward. Ian Martin sits in the day room of Green Mountain Psychiatric Hospital, the Riverside Psychiatric Facility, watching dust motes dance in the afternoon sunlight. 365 days of group therapy, medication management, and people who smile with professional kindness while thinking he's insane. The day room has pale yellow walls that are supposed to be soothing. Jigsaw puzzles, a television playing a cooking show with the volume too low. 6 other patients in various states of medicated calm. Ian knows their diagnoses, has memorized their patterns. That's what you do when you have infinite time and nowhere to go. "Ian," Dr. Susan Mitchell approaches with her clipboard and practiced smile. "How are you feeling today?" Ian has learned the correct answers. "Better. Thank you. The new medication is helping." It isn't, of course. Nothing helps when you know the truth and everyone thinks you're crazy. But saying so only gets your dosage increased. That's good to hear. Dr. Mitchell sits beside him, maintaining appropriate professional distance. "I'd like to talk about your delusions again. I know it's difficult, but examining them rationally can help you see the inconsistencies." Ian wants to laugh. Inconsistencies. As if logic applies to dead people walking around town, buying groceries, living lives they shouldn't have. "Of course," Ian says instead. "You still maintain that you killed multiple people and that a local doctor brought them back to life." Dr. Mitchell's tone is gentle, non-judgmental. "Can you walk me through why you believe this?" Ian has done this before. Many times. He's learned that detailed explanations only make him sound more delusional. I saw them die. Then I saw them alive. It doesn't make sense, I know. But that's what I experienced. And you understand that's impossible? That resurrection violates fundamental laws of biology and physics? Yes, Ian says, because that's what she wants to hear. So is it possible, Dr. Mitchell continues carefully, that your mind created a narrative to explain something you couldn't accept? Perhaps these people never died at all. Perhaps the stress of your divorce, the pressure of your business, created a break from reality? Ian considers Eleanor Henderson's body floating in her bathtub, purple and bloated. He considers Thomas Grayson sitting in his chair, tongue swollen, face blue. He considers the absolute certainty of death, the stillness, the silence, the unmistakable absence of life. Then he considers seeing them alive again, walking, talking, breathing, real. Perhaps, Ian says, because it's easier than the truth. Dr. Mitchell makes a note on her clipboard. Ian has learned to hate that sound. Pen on paper, his reality being documented as madness. The good news is you're making progress, Dr. Mitchell says. A year ago, you were completely convinced of your delusions. Now you're beginning to question them. That's a significant step toward recovery. Recovery, as if sanity is the problem, as if accepting that he imagined everything will somehow make it true. When can I go home? Ian asks. It's a test. He knows the answer. That depends on your continued progress. Right now, you're still experiencing psychotic symptoms. We need to ensure you're stable before we can consider outpatient treatment. Dr. Mitchell's smile is kind. She genuinely wants to help him. That makes it worse somehow. But you're doing well, Ian. Keep taking your medication, participating in therapy, and we'll reassess in a few months. A few months? Then a few more. Then a few more after that. Ian understands the pattern. He'll be here until he either convinces them he's sane by lying, or until he convinces himself he's crazy by believing them. Neither option is appealing. After Dr. Mitchell leaves, Ian returns to the window. From here, he can see a slice of the outside world. Parking lot, highway, mountains. Somewhere beyond those mountains is Millbrook, the town where he killed 9 people and watched them come back to life, the town where Conor McMasters decided to torture him with the impossible. His lawyer visits once a month. The court case is in legal limbo. Ian confessed to murders, but there are no bodies. The people he claims to have killed are provably alive. His ex-wife visited once, 3 months ago. She cried, asked what happened. Ian tried to explain and watched her face shift from concern to pity to fear. She hasn't been back. His real estate business is gone. License revoked, properties sold, reputation destroyed. Even if Ian is ever released, he has nothing to go back to. That's the cruelest part of Conor's game. Not the gaslighting, not the resurrections, not even the confinement. The cruelest part is that Conor took everything from Ian and made it look like Ian did it to himself. The world sees a man who had a psychotic break. They see mental illness, not supernatural revenge. Conor McMasters is out there somewhere, living his life, raising the dead, probably laughing. And Ian is here, medicated and monitored, his truth dismissed as delusion. The television in the corner switches to local news. Ian doesn't usually pay attention, but something makes him look up. The segment is about small Vermont towns boosting tourism. And there, on screen, is Millbrook. The camera pans down Main Street, showing charming storefronts and fall foliage. There's the hardware store where he bought the rope, the pharmacy where he purchased the poison. And there, walking down the sidewalk, in the background, Eleanor Henderson and Conor McMasters. Talking, laughing, completely comfortable. Eleanor looks vibrant. Conor looks exactly the same. The camera moves on, but Ian remains frozen, staring. They're still there, still alive, still together. It wasn't a delusion. It was real. Ian knows this with absolute certainty. He killed those people. Conor brought them back. Everything happened exactly as he remembers, which means he really is trapped here, sane in a place designed for the insane, punished for crimes that both did and didn't happen. The laugh that escapes Ian's throat is bitter and sharp. Several patients turn. A nurse moves closer, alert. "I'm fine," Ian says quickly. "Just thought of something funny." The nurse relaxes. Let us know if you need anything. Ian walks back to his room and sits on his narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. Connor won. That's the simple truth. Connor played a game and won so completely that Ian can't even make people believe the game happened. He's the only person in the world who knows the truth about Connor McMasters, and that knowledge is worthless. Ian lies back. Somewhere in Millbrook, Connor is living his life. Somewhere, Eleanor is planning her move. Somewhere, life continues. And Ian is here. Forever, probably. Connor runs. Thursday morning, crisp October air filling his lungs as his feet hit the familiar sidewalk in steady rhythm. 6 a.m, sunrise painting the mountains gold and orange. Millbrook slowly waking around him. He's been doing this route for nearly 2 years now. Down Main Street, past the coffee shop and hardware store, through the residential neighbourhoods, ending at his medical practice. Everything is exactly the same as it was the morning he first resurrected Eleanor Henderson. Except everything is different. Connor passes Eleanor's old Victorian house. The sold sign is new. A young couple with 2 kids bought it last month. Eleanor attended the closing and told Connor she felt nothing but relief. The route takes Connor past Thomas Grayson's apartment building, the small park where he used to sit and observe. He still sits there sometimes, but now he's not just observing. He's participating. He knows these people. He cares about them. Connor's phone buzzes. He slows to check it. Jennifer, texting a reminder about morning appointments. Mrs. Patterson at 8 a.m. for her hip. Normal? Routine? Boring? Perfect. Connor picks up his pace again, muscles warm and loose. At 44, physically, Connor looks the same as he did 2 years ago. The same as 50 years ago. Immortality has advantages. Perfect health, endless time. But it has costs too. Connor thinks about Jennifer, 32, and aging normally. About Eleanor, 79, with maybe 10 good years left. About patients who worry about adding years to their lives. Connor has all the time in the world, and he'd trade some of it for what they have. The urgency that comes from mortality. The clarity from knowing your time is limited. He's been thinking about this a lot lately. Centuries of existence, and he's never had what the mortals have. He's never risked real connection, because connection means loss. But then he resurrected Eleanor. Then 6 more. 7 people who know what he is and choose to be around him anyway. 7 people who will age and die while Connor remains unchanged. It should terrify him. It does terrify him. But it also makes him feel more alive than he's felt in centuries. Connor reaches Main Street just as the sun clears the mountains. The coffee shop is opening. The hardware store still dark. The pharmacy has 1 light on in the back. Normal. Routine. Boring. Connor remembers when boring was the enemy. When he came to Millbrook because it was so aggressively normal, he thought he could play God without consequences. How wrong he was. Millbrook thinks it's normal, safe, unremarkable. Connor knows better. Millbrook is the site of one of the greatest supernatural events in modern history. 7 successful resurrections. And nobody knows. That's the best part. The secret. He and his resurrected victims move through Millbrook like ordinary people, carrying their impossible knowledge quietly, living normal lives on supernatural foundations. Connor's medical practice comes into view. Nothing special, nothing remarkable. Just another small-town doctor's office. Except Connor is centuries old. Except Connor can resurrect the dead. Except Connor is harbouring 9 murder victims who are technically supposed to be dead. The secret makes Connor smile. Connor slows to a walk, letting his heart rate settle. Eleanor sits on his front steps, coffee in hand, looking like she's been waiting. "Morning, Eleanor," Connor says. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep. Too much excitement about the move. Thought I'd come bother you before your appointments start." Connor sits beside her on the steps. Bother away. They sit in companionable silence for a moment. The sun continues rising, turning the sky from gold to blue. A few cars pass on Main Street. Somewhere, a dog barks. Ordinary morning sounds in an ordinary Vermont town. "Are you happy, Connor?" Eleanor asks suddenly. Connor considers the question seriously. "I think so. It's hard to tell sometimes." Contentment and happiness blur together after a few centuries. That's a non-answer. "I know. Connor takes a breath. But yes, happier than I've been in longer than I can remember. Good. Eleanor takes a sip from her mug. You deserve that. Even immortal necromancers deserve peace. Do they? Connor asks. I killed 7 people, Eleanor. Not directly, but I manipulated events knowing what Ian would do. I used you, all of you, as pieces in a game. And then you brought us back, Eleanor points out. Then you gave us second chances. Then you created this strange little family of impossible people who meet every Tuesday for dinner. Connor, you're not a monster. You're just a man who forgot how to connect with people and then remembered. She sets down her coffee mug. I died, and you brought me back to life. I think that creates a certain intimacy. So let me ask, are you going to stay? In Millbrook, I mean? After we're all gone? It's the question Connor has been avoiding for months. I don't know, he admits. Probably not. I'll need to move eventually, before people notice I don't age. 15, 20 years, maybe. That's a long time, Eleanor says. A lot can happen in 20 years. Like what? Like you could fall in love. Have actual friends, not just patients. Build something that matters enough to risk exposure for. She pauses. Connor, you've spent God knows running from connection because connection means vulnerability. But you've already connected. To me, to Jennifer, to all of us, the vulnerability happened. You can't unring that bell. I know, Connor says quietly. So what are you going to do about it? Connor doesn't have an answer. He's been an immortal for so long, he's forgotten how to be human. Or maybe he never knew in the first place. Figure it out, Eleanor advises. You have time. That's your blessing and your curse. But don't waste it being alone just because alone is safer. Safe is boring, and you're done with boring. When did you become so wise? Connor asks. Death and resurrection really clarifies your priorities, Eleanor says dryly. Also, I'm 79. I've earned the right to give unsolicited advice. Connor's phone buzzes. Jennifer texting that the office is getting busy. They need to get started. Connor waves acknowledgement to Eleanor and starts to stand. Connor, Eleanor calls after him. He turns back. Thank you for bringing me back, for caring enough to want revenge on my behalf, for being weird and complicated and human enough to do the right thing even when you don't have to. I'm not human, Connor reminds her. Could have fooled me, Eleanor counters with a smile. That's what counts. Connor enters his practice, Eleanor's words echoing in his head. Human enough. Is that possible? Can someone who's lived centuries, who can raise the dead, who's hidden and lied and manipulated, can that person still be fundamentally human? Connor doesn't know, but he's starting to think maybe it doesn't matter what he is. What matters is what he does. And right now, what Connor does is practice medicine in a small Vermont town, have Tuesday dinners with friends who know his darkest secret and actually give a damn about the people whose lives intersect with his. That's not a bad thing to be. Jennifer is waiting when Connor arrives at the practice, 2 coffee cups in hand. Morning boss, ready for another thrilling day of small-town medicine? Mrs. Patterson's hip, Connor guesses. Mrs. Patterson's hip, Jennifer confirms. Also, the Thompson kid has a strep throat follow-up. Mr. Chen needs his blood pressure medication adjusted, and Eleanor called to confirm her final physical before she moves. Sounds like a normal Thursday, Connor says, accepting the coffee. Boring even, Jennifer agrees. Connor smiles, a genuine smile that reaches his eyes. The kind of smile he hasn't smiled in centuries. Perfect. They enter the office together. Connor and Jennifer, doctor and assistant, necromancer and accomplice. Friends who share impossible secrets and choose to keep living anyway. Outside, Millbrook wakes up fully. People going to work, kids heading to school, life continuing in all its messy, complicated, beautiful normalcy. Somewhere across town, Ian Martin sits in a psychiatric facility, trapped with truths no one will ever believe. Somewhere in her soon-to-be former house, Eleanor Henderson packs boxes for her move to a new condo, looking forward to however many years her second life grants her. And Connor McMasters, centuries-old necromancer who resurrected 7 murder victims to torment their killer, who discovered that caring about people is both terrifying and worthwhile, who learned that boring can be the greatest gift of all. Connor McMasters starts his Thursday clinic hours, seeing patients who trust him to keep them healthy, never knowing he once literally brought people back from death. The last laugh, Connor realizes, isn't Ian's isolation, or the revenge itself, or even the Survivors Club's impossible resurrections. The last laugh is this. After centuries of running, Connor is finally home. Not forever. Immortality doesn't allow for that. But for now. A place he'll remember when he eventually moves on. A place that changed him from a bored immortal playing games into someone who actually cares. The joke the universe played on Connor, making him immortal, then showing him exactly what he'd be giving up by living forever. Connection, community, love, the temporary, fragile, impossibly precious things that make life worth living. Connor calls in his first patient, and life continues. Normal, boring, beautiful.